Hello everyone, and welcome back to the C-Squared channel. I'm just here on my YouTube channel right now, just looking through some of the videos, just checking up on general channel stuff, and just thinking about what kind of video I could be making today. And I'm hearing some very strange things out here. What's going on? What's happening? What the hell is that? In the months leading up to December 21st, 2012, some people were prepping themselves for a huge cataclysmic event that would mark the end of the world. Some speculated that either a hidden planet or a meteor was going to collide with the Earth. How we got to this assumption? A misinterpretation of a calendar. In the weeks leading up to June 21st of 2020, while suddenly not as widespread, once again, there were speculations that the world was going to end with an annular solar eclipse as an initial sign of the end times ahead of us. How we got to this assumption? Using that very same calendar. On both of these occasions, nothing has happened and life just went on as normal. So how did we reach these conclusions? It all comes down to the Mayan calendar. This calendar was, and still is, used by Mayan societies in the Central American region. Dates represented on the long scale with this calendar were misinterpreted and were used to prophesize the end times. In reality, this wasn't what the calendar was saying, and I'll quickly explain why. The dates on the Mayan calendar are typically represented like this. Each digit here represents a cycle of days. The one to the far right is known as a kin, which is simply 1 day. The next digit is a winnow, which is made of 20 kin, and therefore 20 days. Then you have a tun, which is made of 18 winnow, and so we get 360 days, which is approximated to 1 year. After a tun, each digit is made up of 20 of the previous digit. So for example, this digit here would be 20 of this digit, and this digit here would be 20 of this digit, and so on and so forth. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, and the reason why I'm actually talking about the long scale of the Mayan calendar, is because of what is known as the Bactun cycle, which is made up of about 394 years in our calendars. In the year 2012, we were approaching the 13th Bactun cycle. What this meant for conspiracy theorists is that the calendar would end at this point, as the cycle would be complete. And for whatever reason, this meant that the calendar would be prophesizing an end of the world event the day that Bactun cycle finished. So people jumped on this very quickly and started making these wild claims about how the world would end, which is something I'll get onto later in this video actually. In reality though, when December 21st, 2012 arrived, the Mayan date simply became 13.0.0.0.0 to mark the start of the next Bactun cycle. And that was it. There was no cataclysmic event. We're still here, 8 years later, of making this video. But of course, some people didn't really learn from that. Fast forward 8 years later, and we approached the month of June, which was in fact last month as of making this video. Suddenly, the Mayan calendar makes a dramatic return to supposedly prophesize yet another end of the world event. According to Paulo Tagalogan, the world will come to an end on June 21st, 2020. Why? It is because, in his words, we are actually in 2012 due to the number of days lost in the current calendar we use, which corresponds to 8 years in total being lost. This tweet gives a quick breakdown on how he reached this conclusions. You can see all the calculations that he's done to show that we are in fact still in 2012. Of course though, this means absolutely nothing anyway, because even if this were the case, this would mean that June 21st, 2020 marked the start of the Bactun cycle. The next one, that is. And this leaves us with exactly the same scenario as if it was in December 21st. So there's nothing that changes here. Once again, June 21st came and went recently, and just as expected, nothing happened. This is another situation where the calendar was misunderstood, and for whatever reason it seems people did not really learn from 2012. So not only the calendar was interpreted incorrectly for these doomsday theories, but some of the actual theories themselves about how the world was going to end were very far-fetched. I'm going to quickly talk about one of the more popular theories which don't apply to just December 2012, but they seem to keep popping up in other doomsday predictions as well, across many centuries and probably more to come. It is the classic case of a meteor striking the Earth. In reality, meteorites fall onto the Earth all the time. We just don't really notice most of them because majority of the time they are extremely small and generally dissolve into the atmosphere as they fall onto the Earth. Or when they do fall, the impact usually isn't very severe or noticeable. In a doomsday event though, we are talking about meteors that are at least several kilometers or miles in diameter that can cause worldwide destruction. According to something known as the Torino scale, a system that is used to determine how severe and probable a collision event is, such meteors of this grand scale occurs once every 500,000 to 20 million years. The last huge-scale catastrophic event has been estimated to be about 66 million years ago, which is when it's said that dinosaurs had been wiped out. So that's the classic meteor crater remnant, I suppose, in Mexico. The one where everyone is saying this is when the dinosaurs were extinct, essentially. So by hearing the probability for a big meteor like this, it therefore seems that we are very, very overdue for another collision. So naturally, it would make sense that this would be quite a big talk for a lot of these doomsday theories, because, while yes, a huge meteor strike of it is expected eventually, the chances of it happening in the near future are extremely slim. But what I want to quickly mention here is that the majority of all the potentially catastrophic meteors are currently being tracked and monitored. So, obviously, we would know when an actual meteor is planning to strike us, or if it gets very, very close to us, as it has done before. So, I would personally, stick with what the astronomers have to say, those that are researching, the meteors and stuff, rather than just some calendar prediction, So there isn't really much to worry about right now, and you definitely don't need to go crazy, obviously, when some calendar supposedly predicts the end times is coming ahead, when in reality it was just simply another cycle, so that's to keep in mind there. Now, very briefly, I'll mention another popular theory during the events of 2012, and this one is a lot more far-fetched. This was the idea of a hidden and gigantic planet that was slowly approaching us from the distant solar system, or perhaps even outside of the solar system, coming in from deep space somewhere. This, typically named as Planet X, or Nibiru, would smash onto the Earth on December 21st, 2012, which follows similarly with the meteor strike theories, so it's all kind of very similar things. Of course, this never happened, and amusingly, it even had to be confirmed by NASA officials that such a planet like this had never existed. And the reason why they had to do that is because people kept referencing NASA to support their own theories that the world was going to end with a planet collision. And I find that to be rather hilarious myself, honestly. As NASA put it well here, if Nibiru or Planet X were real and headed for an encounter with the Earth in 2012, astronomers would have been tracking it for at least the past decade, and it would be visible by now to the naked eye. And this wasn't the only time such a planet had been in conspiracy theories like this in recent times. In fact, this has cropped up once again in the events leading up to June 21st, 2020, which was also false, didn't happen. And I imagine there's going to be many more events in the future that are going to keep talking about this Planet X Nibiru type, object. But the thing to know here is that it doesn't exist, at least to our understanding of it. So next time we hear talk about an end-of-the-world event that seems to have been prophesized by some calendar following a meteor strike or some secret planet lingering in the darkness, just remember that on the day of the predicted event, nothing will happen and life will just go on as normal. As it is done in the last few centuries. So with that in mind, how do you guys think the world will end? Or what kind of wild conspiracies have you heard about the end of the world? Be sure to reply in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.